What up, guys? This is Luke from soberfromdespair.com. This video is going to be a little bit different from the other ones. Sorry about the cussing that's going to be in it, but I'm fucking pissed off. Why am I pissed off? Because last week in group, we watched a video called Pleasure's Unwoven, and it talked about why addiction's a disease. And I started doing a video blog on it tonight, and then I started thinking about where I was at 3 years ago when I first tried getting sober and how I could have done a lot better had I fucking got this in my brain and had I not been a little bitch. Here it goes. Addiction is a disease. Point blank and simple. However, the difference between addiction being a disease and cancer being a disease, AIDS being a disease, fucking MS being a disease, all these other diseases out there, is that we don't have a pill, a magic pill, or some sort of medicine that could either slow down the process or help solve the problem. We don't get the luxury of that stuff. However, what we do have is the luxury of getting to improve ourselves every single day, the luxury of not having to go to doctors, the luxury of getting to learn from other people and help other people. We get to be doctors with other people, meaning being a sponsor, having sponsees, doing all this stuff and help progress people and not be using all the time and fucking up their lives. However, that takes work, that takes time, that takes dedication, and sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. Sorry to tell you that, but sometimes it is. However, I always tell people that I'm an addict, and they ask me, one of the first things they ask is, well, isn't it hard to get sober? I can't believe you've done it that long. Isn't that hard? Old me would have said, yes, it's hard. That's what old me would have said. That's what I would have said 3 years ago. That's what I thought 3 years ago when it was my 21st birthday, and I was in recovery, and I decided to go out and drink. A month later, I ended up dropping out of intensive outpatient treatment, fucking around for a long time, using a bunch of different drugs, getting worse and worse, and then having to come back around, go to rehab, and then go back into intensive outpatient treatment. Old me would have said, yeah, this is hard. I want to have my 21st birthday. I want to be normal. Guess what? Not normal. My brain is fucked up. All right? I got a disease. Something in my brain's messed up. I can't use because of that. Since there's no medicine for me to take, I got to do other things to get better. I got to go to AA. I got to go to NA. Got to go to rehab. Got to go to intensive outpatient treatment. When my insurance is paying for my intensive outpatient treatment, I have contracts with them that I got to maintain in order to keep that money. All those things that I have to maintain within my contract are designed to get me better. But guess what? Sometimes they're a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes they're a little bit not ideal. Sometimes they force me to not be lazy and be actively involved in getting better every single day. Guess why I need to get better every single day? Because every single day for the rest of my life, whether I'm using or not using, I got a disease, and the disease is addiction. So there's not a certain amount of sobriety time I can take, have that sobriety time down, and then all of a sudden be able to use some methadone or smoke some weed or do some benzos or drink some alcohol again, all of a sudden be better. Doesn't work that way. So I'm pissed off when people ask if it's hard, and I'm pissed off that I used to say, yeah, it's really hard, and be a little bitch and not account for what is really going on. It's not hard. It's rewarding. It's a little bit unideal at times. Sometimes I gotta cancel things. Sometimes I'm not able to go out when I want to go out. Sometimes I'm not gonna be able to take a vacation because I gotta do other stuff. Sometimes I'm not gonna be able to go to a niece's birthday party because I gotta go to group. Gotta do all these things. Sometimes I gotta drive an hour from my house all the way to the Springs just to take some medicine or to piss in a cup and come back home. But those are things I gotta do to get better. You know what's actually hard? All the shit I used to do when I was on drugs. Stuff that's really hard, the hardest things I've ever done in my life are the things that I did on a day-to-day basis when I was using drugs. I would lie, I would cheat, I'd manipulate, I would steal, I would pawn my guitars to get money to buy weed. I would call in sick to work. I would go through withdrawals all the time. I would do all this crazy ass shit in order to do drugs. And the only reason I could do that stuff is because I was on drugs. Drugs make it easy to do that shit because you don't feel feelings anymore. All that shit you were doing, though, all that shit I did, was the hardest stuff I'll ever do in my life. And the only hard part about dealing with that stuff when you first become sober and you have to do the 12 steps, and if you do like step 8 and 9, making amends and taking and doing resentment lists and stuff, like step 4, the only hard shit about that was accounting for all the stuff that I did when I was using. That was the hard part, was realizing in my head all the shit that I'm capable of. That was the only hard part. But I was able to do that on a day-to-day basis because I was high. Fuck that. Getting sober is not hard. Sometimes it's a little monotonous. Sometimes it's not ideal. You're not allowed to do all the stuff you want to do. Sometimes you want to use. Do I want to get high? Fuck yeah, I want to get high at times. Do I want to drink? Hell yeah, I want to drink at times. Why? Because I'm an addict. I love that shit more than anybody out there. But I can't do that because if I do that, it means I'm going to be doing all that other shit I had to do in order to do that. And all that other shit, to me, is worse than death. People talk about how when you're using in AA and stuff, they talk about jail, institutions, or death. Those are the 3 easy things. The hardest thing is living your life, not dying, not being in jail, not being in institutions. Because at least in jail and in institutions, you're going to probably have to get better. When you're dead, you don't got to do shit. However, when you're using, you don't get to do anything that life is really about. You don't get to have any of the rewarding shit going on in life. All you have to do is be concerned about when you're going to get your next fix, where and how. And then the how is the fucked up part. So getting sober is not hard. Getting sober means you have to do it day by day because there is no little pill you can take. There's no quick method that can happen. And that's the reason, for me anyways, why I felt that addiction wasn't a disease for the longest time. I was like, oh, well, if it's a disease, then maybe a doctor can fix me on it. If it's a disease, I don't have to do anything. If it's a disease, I can put my recovery in somebody else's hands. So it's not a disease, it's just a matter of me not thinking right, not doing stuff correctly, and after I have a certain amount of time of not using, I'll be able to use again. Fuck no. It's a disease because if I do use again, my brain, the way it's set up, the way it's damaged in the limbic system, I'm going to go ahead and fucking go balls to the wall using again. However, now that I'm sober, I gotta use my prefrontal cortex of my brain and go on moment to moment, figuring out what the best way is for me to progress that day and live my life at the same time. I gotta have balance between both, but the number one priority in my life has to be getting better. Is that hard? No, that's not hard. That's awesome. The cool shit with that is learning how to set boundaries with people, learning how to help other people, learning how to give back to your family, learning how to tell the truth, learning how to be able to find a job and sustain a job, learning how to do the stuff I want to do in my life. Is that shit hard? No. Is that all the stuff I have to do in order to be sober? Hell yeah, it is. Do I have to go to meetings? Yeah, I do. Do I have to piss in cups in order to stay in my intensive outpatient treatment right now? Yeah, I do. Do I want to do that all the time? No, I don't. Why do I have to do it all the time? Because addiction's a disease. I don't get the luxury of using when I want to and not using when I need to. Sorry. It's the way it is, Luke. That's how it is. That's what it's going to be for the rest of your life. I could either choose to go back the way it was, which was fucking hard. Very goddamn hard. Or I can do this, which is a little bit uncomfortable at times. But once you develop the habit of doing it, it's fucking cake. It's fun. It's nice. It's badass. Is it hard to sometimes have to set boundaries with people and take and cut off friendships and cut people out of your life because they could influence you in a bad way to end up using, or they could just be not the right person for you to be hanging out with? Hell yeah, that's hard at times, I guess. But you know what? That's called being an adult. That's not part of being sober. That's called being an adult. If I was not fucking drug addict, do you think I'd be running around hanging out with drug addicts, hanging out with people that steal and lie and cheat all the time? Fuck no, I wouldn't. I'd be turned off at that shit. But all of a sudden, since I'm a drug addict and I need drugs, I gotta maintain friendships with these people in order to get that. Then all of a sudden, when I don't want to be using drugs anymore, I gotta cancel these friendships out, cut these people out of my life, and move on, meet better people, people that aren't doing that same shit. Is that stuff really hard? No, it's not. Is it difficult? Sometimes, yeah. Is it uncomfortable at times? Yeah. Not hard. Not anything to worry about. Something that when you're done doing it, you feel better. When you're done going to an AA meeting, when you're done taking your naltrexone if you have to, taking your Antabuse or your Suboxone, or going and having to pee in a cup and all this shit that you dread, going to an AA meeting, whatever it is, going to that, does it suck in the beginning? Is it something you don't want to do? Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. Afterwards, does it feel better that you did it? Hell yeah, it does. Does the lesson that you get from it, if you're actually paying attention, not being focused on how hard and stupid it is that you gotta be there, does the lesson you get from that mean so much more to you in your life because that lesson lets you live your life? Hell yeah, it does. So quit focusing on how hard it is, how some people have it better and they have a luxury of being able to drink. Quit calling people normies. Do you think somebody with cancer or with MS or with AIDS or diabetes, do you think they resent people for being normal, for being healthy? Do you think they resent somebody for not having the disease that they have? If they do, they're a fucking asshole. And if you do, because you're an addict and somebody else is sober, or somebody else is not an addict, excuse me. If you're an addict and you resent somebody for not being an addict, you're a piece of shit. You should be happy for them, not envious of them. Get past your ego, because I used to do that shit all the time. I'd get always jealous and frustrated that I couldn't be getting high again, because I love getting high, and that's really what it was all about when I was resenting these people and calling them normies or something stupid like that. I was just resenting the fact that I couldn't do what they were doing because I have a disease. Get over yourself. Do the right stuff. Get help. Keep getting help for the rest of your life. Find a way to have some sort of recovery going on that works for you. Figure out one that works for you so that you have balance of everything, balance of getting better so that you can have all the good shit that you want to have going on in your life, balance of both. But without this, you definitely can't have that. Figure that out. Leave the rest to God and be happy for the people that don't have to do the stuff that you have to do. But then also, you can be pretty, I almost pity the people that don't get to do what we get to do, that don't get to right their wrongs, that don't get to learn to recover from their mistakes, that don't get to take and meet other people, because some of the coolest people you'll ever meet, smartest people, most badass people you'll ever meet are in these rooms, in rehabs, in recovery, making badass shit out of their life. And you know why that is? Because they had to dig all the way down to a rock bottom. That's called depth. When you dig down to the lowest place you can go, and then they had to climb up to be normal, and then climb their way out even past that, that's depth in a person's life. That's a lot going on right there. That's somebody who's a badass, who's fully lived their life, done all the most fucked up things they could possibly withstand, and then changed and grown back from that and kept growing so that the disease doesn't bring them back down to that. in the beginning, hell yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable because you're at the very lowest of the low. You're at the worst place you could imagine being. And then you gotta rewrite all those wrongs or try to find a way to make amends with those wrongs. Try to get good between you and God and keep getting better in your life. Yeah, kind of sucks, but it's the name of the game. It's what we've all done. It's the cards we've dealt ourselves. If I can do this, anybody can do this. If somebody else has done this before me, I can do it with them too. You don't got to be super smart to get better. You don't got to be super talented. You don't have to be really athletic. I can't do sports that well because I'm not that athletic. I can't be a doctor because I know my mental capacity. I don't think I can go to med school and pass that. I can't do all these things. I'm not really good at acting, so I can't be an actor. However, it doesn't require any of that shit. There's nothing special about somebody that's getting sober. Nothing special about them. It's just the difference between somebody who gets sober and maintains that and somebody who falls off is the person that doesn't understand what's really going on and the person that isn't lazy versus the person that is lazy. When we were using, all we were about was the quick fixes, the pathetic stuff. Pathetic. If you can't go to an AA meeting once a week or do what you need to do, if you can't do the steps, as difficult, I guess, as they could be at times, as unideal as they could be at times, if you can't do those things, that's pathetic. All right? Because you're basically saying, oh, I would rather die, or I'd rather do some really fucked up shit, some really hard stuff, like lying, cheating, stealing, murder if it comes to that, driving drunk, putting everybody else's lives in jeopardy around you. That's the hard stuff. You're saying you would rather do that than go to this meeting this day or make this arrangement this day or hold this obligation this day because it's going to prevent you from doing that other stuff. You think somebody with MS likes giving themselves a shot every day? No, they don't. Nobody likes giving themselves a shot every day. Is that the difference between them living a successful, normal life and them having a really bad, troublesome, symptomatic life? That's the difference between the two. We don't have a shot we can take. Instead, we got to grow up as people. Be a man, man the fuck up. Be a boss. Be a woman, woman the fuck up. Be a boss. And get on with life. Get good with God. Figure out what it is that we need. Figure out our recovery plan. Put it to action. Make it work. Keep going. Sorry about all the cuss words. Sorry about going on and on. Peace out.